All right, good people. Deacon Steve, this is for you. We are back again. We are here, B.M.B, tell it like it's T.I. is. And if you look and see, we have somebody with us that's going to help us out tonight. And all tonight, we're going to talk about voting. We have less than 60 days until the elections, and we are going to mobilize and tell people about what's going on with voting, why is it important, why you must do it, and why it is so sacred in the words of John Lewis. It is sacred. So we're B.M.B. My name is Brent. We got Mel-Bone over there with them doggone bangles on his backdrop. And God, dog, that just distracted me. That just
get some who?
That distracted me. Yeah, that. Oh yeah.
Nope.
Anyway, and then we got Brax.
King
Brown, the king
of all things,
of everything. Back in when we was in high school, he was the king of everything.
Just a regular guy going to school.
The regular guy that won everything.
Everything.
Just a guy just showing up to school every day.
And also with us, we have our little sister Braxton's cousin. Matter of fact, if we always hear talk about our pastor and our bishop, our spiritual father, Bishop D.S. McBride, senior pastor of Grace Temple Ministries in Temple, Texas. Temple's most exciting place to experience God, and Airways' most exciting place to hear the word is none other than our bishop's daughter, Miss Lexxi McBride. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm so excited to join you guys. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for at the last minute basically coming on and ready to tell the good people about the thing that you're working on in Bell County, trying to get not just our people out to vote, but just anybody that's not registered to vote or feel like their vote doesn't count. Just trying to work with the Bell County just to get our people out to vote, and we are excited to hear about what you got going. So right now we're gonna be quiet. We're gonna let you tell us about what's going on, and then we're just gonna go from there.
Okay. Well, so there's an event. It's called Voter Palooza, and like you said, it's a Bell County-wide voters registration event. And to keep us safe during this global pandemic, we made it a drive-through voters registration event. So I'm really, really excited. There's 7 total locations across Bell County, Summit, Killeen, Belton, Temple, and elsewhere. There'll be a flyer I can give you guys to post and everything like that so you guys can see. But I'm so excited. So we are doing a location at Grace Temple Ministries in the parking lot. And so I'm heading that up. And I just think it's so important because voting is sacred. Like you said, it's a sacred thing. Voting is citizenship. Voting is power. And so we just have to use that power. And I know that many people in this day, with everything going on, with what they're seeing, the economy, jobs being lost, police brutality, and this cultural pandemic that's going on, I think people feel like voting is insufficient. But it doesn't just stop with the vote. Voting is a step one in a long, complex process, but it must be done, and it is power. We get to choose these people, and you should vote in every election, not just federal, but the state and the local. It all really, really, really matters. And as the lower you go, as in the local governments, those are the district attorneys that prosecute some of these officers, tax assessors that are taxing our homes and areas. It's really, really important. So I'm so excited. This is the protests and things that we're seeing in this world. I think we're on the tipping point of a change, of a true change. And this is it. This is taking that action steps and registering people to vote. So I'm so excited for this event, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. And yeah, that's it.
All right.
So I got a quick question. So people who are wanting to vote, what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to just show up there, and then they have to go through steps to get to vote, or what is going to be how it works, I should say.
It works at the place. So they're going to drive through, and it's actually really, really, really easy. They're going to get a sheet of paper. So if you're not registered to vote, you don't just, if you're a citizen, you just get a paper, sign it, put your name, date, address, give it back to me. I give you kind of like a receipt, and there we go. You're registered to vote. And you should be getting something in the mail with your name on it, your voter registration card. You know, you guys probably are familiar. But if you don't receive your voter's registration card, it's okay, because I'm going to give you that little receipt, and you can take that to the polls and show them like, hey, I registered on this date. So I should be registered. The deadline to register to vote, I believe, is October the 5th. And so I can register people all the way up until then. If, you know, if you guys get any persons like, I don't know where to go, there are places online you could do it. But just an event to bring people out. We're going to have music and some fun stuff. So people are like, what's going on over there? It's like, hey, I'm registered to vote. So that's how it is. It's a really easy process. Just simple as it's a one sheet. I should have brought the card to show you, but it's just one rectangular sheet, maybe like this big.
Okay.
And then you just fill it out, and that's it. Really, name, address.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
That's cool. And we'll get that information to the people as well. We'll probably post it in a link or something. So if they need to get in contact with you, Lexi, if that's okay, they can reach out to you.
Absolutely.
And another thing too, and you may have went over this already. So is there like a certain time that people can come to this voting palooza that you guys are doing? And is there multiple locations? You know, how long you guys going to be doing this for? And is it just for, I don't know, Democrats or Republicans, or is it for both groups of voters? So you have a response to that.
Yeah, so I don't think I mentioned yet. So there are 7 total locations where we'll be doing this on Saturday, September the 19th. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at every location. And this is a bipartisan event. So whether you're Republican, Democrat, you know, Tea Party, Green Party, Independent, doesn't matter. We want to register you to vote. We want to get you out to vote. There will be little pamphlets so you'll know where to early vote, where to get informed about voting and all that good stuff. So it's a bipartisan event. We welcome come one, come all to any of the locations, but I would love for you to come see me at the Grace Simple Ministries location in Temple, Texas. And I'm really excited. This is a side of town that isn't often spotlighted during voting. And so I'm really, really excited to just be on the east side of Temple and empower them with their right to vote.
Great. That's good. And I had another question too for you. And so I know you mentioned, you know, voting is power. What do you, I mean, just to dive a little deeper into that, what does that mean, you know, to you, being you know, just a young person that's getting involved in the community and trying to do something to help others, you know, register to vote? What does that mean to you? And what would you say to people who says their vote doesn't matter and that in the last election they didn't vote because they didn't feel like, you know, it mattered?
Yes, actually, 4.4 million people who voted in the 2012 election did not vote in the 2016 election. And so I think people believe when we think we have to check off all these boxes on candidates to be happy with them. But like I said, voting is just step one in a long and complex process. So we have to stick with it, and you just choose the most expedient path forward. But any candidate we're going to have to work on, you're going to have to fight to get your agenda on the ticket.
That's right.
But referencing about power that you said, I think power is who makes the law, who gets to enforce the law, who assigns the law, and who gets to judge the law. But guess what? We vote for those people. So we have power. Small things I mentioned before, district attorney, tax assessors, city managers, they make contracts with the city. They choose how much money is going to go to education. Your governor is going to choose and decide, like, are we going to renew Medicaid, or can you get health care? Things like that are really, really important, so you don't realize on your day-to-day that it does affect you. And so voting is power. You get to choose who enforces the law, who judges the law, who makes the law, who assigns the law. All those things, we pick those people. And so if you're unhappy with the way things are going, I know it can seem like just my one vote is gonna help things. But voting, passive participation is not enough.
Right.
We must be active. You must know, and you getting informed. Me as a 25-year-old woman showing that I think voting is important. I've gotten friends registered to vote, and they're like, maybe I should get more interested. And so it's not just you that you're affecting. You show everyone, like, I believe voting is important, and they're like, your family, your friends, tell everyone, vote, empower them to vote.
And that was going to actually be my next question, was about people from the ages of 18 to like 25. Like, as you stated, like, I know I voted at 18, but I was just going to say I went to vote just because I was able to vote. I wasn't like really looking into any type of politics or what was going on or anything like that. So what do you think, or how do you think people in that age range think about politics? Are they not concerned? Are they concerned? Are they starting to get more concerned? Or should they be concerned? What do you think?
So I read some stats somewhere. People from 18 to 30 just flat out don't vote. They don't vote. It was less than 30% of those people vote. And so it's not that they don't think the community is important and they don't find the laws important, but because they vote in such little numbers, their agendas aren't on the ticket. So they become disappointed. Like, why would I, lesser of two evils. They don't like that sort of thing. And so they don't vote. But that's why I say passive participation isn't enough. You have to be informed. All these issues we see in the world, we have to start finding solutions. And then if those solutions don't work, what do we do next? So we have to be a part of that solution. You have to fight for your agenda, to be on the ticket, fight for how do we solve this problem, And I remember there was a shooting in my city of a young Black man by the name of Michael Dean, and it was horrible. It was horrifying. And I thought training would work, implicit bias training for officers. But the stats show that doesn't make an impact. The stats show that body cam footage doesn't make an impact on police violence. And so, sometimes when we find a solution that we think might work, we have to adjust to those things if it doesn't, and just be a part of that solution, finding out what should be done, what can be done, and getting out there and doing those things and getting our agenda on the ticket, if that makes sense.
It's good.
It does.
That's
Yes.
good. Yeah. And
see, I love this kind of carrying on right here, talking about things that matter, things that have substance to it, such as this topic right here, voting. We're not getting on here talking about what's going on in pop culture, even though on this show we call it R&B culture. We're talking about things that matter, that's going to help change your life. And you having this voice of voting, it means so much. Lexxi, give me your opinion on our grandparents. At that point, they didn't have that right. And now to this day, it's so easy and it's so easy for us to access to vote. But why do we take advantage of it versus what our grandparents did back in those days? That makes sense.
Yes, it does. And I think many of us get disappointed because it's like we've been voting for millions of years. So, I mean, we've had millions vote for hundreds of years. And it's like where there's still racism still exists. But the thing is, there's been progress. Sometimes winning isn't always a trophy. Sometimes winning is progress.
Wow.
And so we have to understand that a win can sometimes just look like a step in the right direction, and we have to keep fighting. And so that's another thing in this generation where things are 6-second videos and just short attention span. And we've seen people across the world protesting, but I just hope everybody knows that it's gonna be a while, and we're gonna have to put in some work. And so I think that's what it is. We become disappointed because we look at how the world is and how, man, racism in 2020, we were in the 1860s, right? Getting, you know, our right to vote and all that stuff, or trying to get our rights to vote, and not until now. And systemic racism is still running strong. And so that makes people think like, obviously voting doesn't work, but that's just not the truth.
It's funny you said that. I was just listening to an interview that Tyler Perry did with T.I. on his podcast, and he said that he took Sidney Poitier and Cicely Tyson to Africa, and Tyler Perry said he took that flight just to sit at their feet and just to listen to the wisdom that they were pouring out. And he said Cicely Tyson said that they didn't give, and our parents, the enough to fight for. And he said, what do you mean by that? He said Tyler Perry didn't understand it, because he said everything y'all did in the civil rights era, you know, versus if it was Harry Belafonte out on the fields and Dick Gregory on the fields with Dr. King marching and all that. And then you had people like Cicely Tyson, Sidney Poitier, Diane Carroll's having these fancy dinner parties to help get money to get to the movement just so they could keep going. And he said, how can you say that you didn't give us enough to fight for? She said, well, one thing I know is just in me, that to be a continued fighter. She said, you know, and this is even after we had President Obama, the first African-American president. And even then she felt like we didn't give y'all enough to fight for. So I somewhat see what she was saying, but then I'm like Tyler Perry, I'm going like, yes, you did. Everything you did, every move you made was a foundation laid for us to have today and to give us the right to fight. So when you just said that, Lexi, that's what came to my head. So
yeah,
bravo to all of this. And yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I was just amening you on that, because it's just so true. And I think Black people and African-American community, they're exhausted. They're exhausted with fighting. And it's like, how long have we been fighting? And even in our history in America, sometimes we're unaware of the history. And we think we just went from slavery to where we are now. And that's not necessarily the truth at all. You know, everyone doesn't know the history of civil rights and how hard we worked. And it doesn't resonate with them when you say our ancestors fought for this. It doesn't. But I was just looking at John Lewis's words about voting is sacred. And, you know, when I say voting is citizenship, like, let's just remember, Black people were only 3/5 of a person. And so now we have this right to vote, and it is evidence of our citizenship. It is evidence that, hey, we're here, we have concerns. And because of that, you have to listen to us.
Right,
and
right.
We have to bring solutions, you know? And so our agenda has to be on the ticket when we come out and vote. So
and look at it like this. We were announced as 3/5 of a man. So if you don't vote, you're zero, basically. In my eyes, you're zero if you don't vote.
absolutely.
You already looked at it as 3/5 of a man, but if you don't take your time to do the research, and Lexi, you said it point on, don't just say get out and vote. Do your research on the candidates.
Absolutely.
Which one have is it 30? Is it 30, 70, 60, 40? Where do you lie with these candidates that we have running, and go from there? It is so much bigger than that, but you were already counted as 3/5 of a man. Don't be counted as zero by not voting.
And I don't want to talk too much, but I know some people think, oh, I'm not a political person. But we live in a democracy, so voting, what you do, paying attention to who's in office, it affects your everyday life. It affects what your children are learning at school. It affects what type of health care that you have access to, what type of job you have access to, what type of education, like I said, you and your children have access to, you know, who's gonna go to prison, it affects everything in your everyday life. And so it's not about being a political person, you know, it's about, this is what it means to be a citizen in a democracy.
Right. I was going to ask y'all this question, and anybody can answer this, to you too, Lexi. So I was reading an article earlier. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, you know, and they're talking about, you know, different parties spreading this misinformation to voters. And I know there's been some talk about, you know, felonies having the right to vote, voting early, mail-in ballots, those types of things. Um, so it's just far as, I mean, if y'all, I don't know, Lexi, if you have any correct information regarding that, you know, felonies, voting early, and just any, I know Donald Trump here recently even told some of his supporters that if they don't feel like if they voted by mail and they don't feel like it, or if it hasn't been counted yet, to actually go to the polls and vote again. So to vote, and I heard that's actually illegal.
Yes.
And in some states can be considered,
It's voter fraud.
yeah, like voter fraud. And I guess there'd be ramifications if they did that. And so I don't know if you have any information regarding that misinformation that can be given.
Yes, there can be a lot of misinformation. I know even on the internet, it was going around that you could get your mail-in ballot and take it to the polls. And that's actually not the case as well. In Bell County, we're working to make something like that possible, where you can sign some paperwork and say, hey, you know, I'm nervous about it getting counted. And so bringing it in, but that's going to be up to your county. You have to really look that up and make sure, like, okay, what paperwork do I need to bring? Does it need to be signed and dated with your name? So with the mail-in ballots, I would encourage everyone to go to the polls and vote.
Okay.
Early vote, wear your mask, social distance.
Man.
Right.
Wear your mask, social distance, but go to the polls. Just because, you know, with USPS and the change in the Postmaster General, there's been a lot of changes, and you know, we don't know what's going on there for sure.
Right.
So I would go to the polls and vote. Felons can actually vote. I know a lot of them believe that they can't, but as long as they've, you know, paid their debt to the society, like they're not on probation, they've paid all fines, they've served their time, you actually are eligible to vote. If you are 17 and 2 months, if you turn 18 on November the 2nd, you can register to vote and you can early vote. You don't have to wait until you turned 18 to do it. You can register, and if you turn 18 on November 2nd, you can go early vote at the polls.
Okay. Good.
That's good to know.
I always say you need these three things: God, Google, and a gun. If you got them three things, you can make it.
Invincible. Invincible. What can't you do?
You can make it. I'm
What can't
telling
you
you. So yeah, so so your point, Braxton, when you said about misleading information, I remember back in 2016 during that election time, there were a lot of Russian bots and pages out there targeting our community, saying if you click this page, you voted. And I think it was like in the 50s where people were actually doing that, say, oh, I voted on Facebook. So people, you don't be misled. And I always say this, and I will say this till I die. If your vote did not count, why is it a certain party is fighting so hard to suppress it? You saw what happened in Georgia with Stacey Abrams. We saw that train wreck.
Wow.
You see what happened here in Texas. They moved polling places from Prairie View A&M because they saw that most of those black college students were voting Democratic. So they moved those polls about 50 miles away just to make it harder. I like what they did. They mobilized. They got buses, cars, and they went to the polls anyway. In Houston, 7 hours just to vote in this last primary election for the Democratic side. So it's a fight. And I can't remember who said, was it First Lady Michelle Obama? Put on your good shoes, grab your lunch or breakfast, and get ready to stand in line. And that's why I just tell, like Lexi just said, early vote. Texas, early voting starts October the 13th. That's when early voting starts. Mask up, like Lexi said, and just go in, and it won't take long. Put your gloves on, it won't take long. Get in there, get it over with. And because November the 3rd, it's going to be a beast. But if you're out there on November the 3rd, just be ready for a battle.
Like you were saying.
Don't go ahead, Bill. I was just going to say this one last thing. Certain parties also putting 50,000 troops out there to to intimidate you. 50,000 people that they're putting out there to intimidate your vote. So I just want to throw that out there as well.
I'm so sorry to talk so much on your show, but I just want to say
Come on,
one
Lexxi.
more thing.
Go
So I
ahead.
actually learned some history that way back in the day, before the 15th Amendment was officially even ratified, it was when the KKK was just birthed. And so they went from city to city in the South to intimidate African-American voters to stay away from the polls. And guess what? Speaking of your top 3 things, Brent, there were cities, African-American cities, who took up arms, and the KKK dare not go there. And because of those cities, they swung the vote. They swung the vote to Ulysses S. Grant. I think it was Ulysses, you guys. It could have been Robert E. Lee. I'm so sorry. I don't have the history book right in front of me. But yeah, they swung the vote way back then. And so your vote matters.
Yes.
They wouldn't try to suppress your vote. And honestly, both parties have gone back and forth with voter suppression and, you know, who they're trying to pander. And when they try to they're usually the people who try to get the Southern vote in the bag is who, you know, uses the voter suppression. But it's a common thing. It's a common tactic. And if it didn't matter, they wouldn't try to suppress your vote. And that's all I want to say on that.
Yeah.
Thought that was cool facts. Like way back, our first election, before we could even officially do it,
they was already intimidating.
But we swung the vote.
But we swung it. So that goes to show you.
We didn't have Google yet.
Right. But we still had God, and some of them still had their gun, but we didn't have Google. But Black people, if you vote in your numbers, you can change things. If we vote in our numbers, things can change. I love you, Lexxi. You brought some facts that we've been saying all along since we started our show, and you just made it just that much more easier to our listeners to hopefully they can understand how important that vote is. But yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. The only other thing I was thinking about, Brent, was regarding what you said when Cicely Tyson, is that who it was? It was with Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry, yeah.
What she mentioned, they didn't give us enough to fight for. They gave us a lot. They did do a lot for us, and I do appreciate them for that. The only thing I'm thinking of that she may have been referring to is, so we got the right to vote, but maybe it shouldn't have stopped there. We probably should have fought for like reparations and just kind of other things out there regarding our people, so we wouldn't pretty much be starting, we wouldn't be starting behind other races and other ethnic groups. I know there were other groups in the U.S. that got something like reparations for what they went through. We have not got that yet. And so that may have been something she was referring to when she mentioned that. This is
Good point.
A unified agenda, even, to know like, hey, we needed this, because they fought unified for the right to vote. But maybe that makes so much sense, Braxton, putting it in perspective. Like, we didn't show you all there's more to the story, more to fight for. We're not just good now because we can vote. Even because we have a Black president, that doesn't mean the fight is over.
Yeah. It's not. We still, and I think we're seeing that now. That's why there's so much stuff happening in the world. It's crazy, but I think it's a good thing because I feel like we're getting to that point where we realize there's more to this fight than what we've already accomplished and where we've been. And so
got to keep going.
We just got to keep going. We can't stop.
I've been a voter deputy registrar before, but it didn't feel like it does now. If that makes sense. Like,
that makes perfect sense.
I was a morale boost when I, registered my first voter. So I agree, Braxton. It's been a wake-up call. Like, there's work to do, and I need to be a part of this solution. Yeah. I'm going to be a part of the group. I'm going to be able to tell my children what I did to take action against the eradication of racism today.
Right. Yeah. Well, we know what happened to Jacob Blake. People all around the world have been praying for his recovery. And just a few days ago, he popped up and he did a video letting you know about, yes, he's still in pain every day. He said it hurts to eat because they took a lot of his major organs out. And I mean, the dude was shot 7 times in the back. What do you expect? He's paralyzed. And he did make a video, and he said that the looting and everything else, stop doing that. It's not helping anything.
Right.
It's not helping anything. So I just wanted to ask y'all, I'm glad the brother is alive because he's alive to tell the story of what happened. You know, George Floyd, he's not alive to tell what happened or how he felt. Breonna Taylor, and one of the cops just got arrested for shooting her, but still yet, I mean, no, he just got fired. I'm sorry, but he has yet to be arrested. I'm sorry, I was telling the fib on that. And countless others. If I told you all the names, I can be here for now for all the unarmed blacks that have been killed in the hands of the police. But I just want to ask you, this one man is alive. Where do we go from here? That's for any of y'all to take it.
We're just talking about voting and these policies, and a lot of the reason why things like the cops that killed Breonna Taylor haven't been arrested and they are still doing these things and we are not really seeing repercussions is because of things like police union contracts. They have a contract with their city, and a lot of times, even I was reading the one for Temple, Texas, and there's things like they can be hired back after being disciplined, being let go. They can be hired at another department. They have a moment to get their story straight, so they can't be drug tested on site after killing someone or even interrogated yet. They have 24 hours, sometimes more, to get their story straight, if you will. They're not drug tested. They can review body cam footage at some police departments and get their story straight. And so when you think about how the police even came to be in the first place, the Runaway Slave Patrol, and you consider all these things, and then you look at some of the concessions that we've made them, we just need to hold them accountable.
Right.
And I think defund the police has been a big phrase that's out there, and people really, really are afraid of that. Why would we do something like that? Especially people in high crime areas. They're like, the police, like, no, we can't do that. But if you didn't know, they've been defunding, school institutions for years. They defund healthcare. They defund social programs. They defund all those things. And so I think there are other things that should scare us more. And I think racism is all about power and policy, so if we can change those policies and use our power, then these things would happen a lot less.
Wow.
What I think about that as far as moving forward, I believe what everybody wants to see, and Lexi, you kind of just touched on it, is anytime something happens, just like you said, for example, the people that shot Breonna Taylor, what people want to see are convictions. They don't want to see people being arrested. They don't want to see people being put in jail. They want to see these people convicted and put away, not arrested, not put in jail, and then they go to trial and then they're found innocent. No, they want to see these people convicted and put away. I honestly believe when that starts to happen, things are going to change and people are going to start to be pleased with the justice system. When you see that stuff happen, like George Zimmerman, man, this dude should have been up under the jail. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's walking around. And so, I mean, it's like people, they want to see convictions for these crimes because for sure, we get convicted all the time. Whether it be for something minor or something major, most of the time they end up putting us in prison. You know what I'm saying? So I think people want to see convictions, and that's going to that's going to make people start to believe in our justice system, because nobody really believes in our justice system right now.
Well said.
I was thinking many people misconstrue the message, and it's like criminals should be arrested, but I think Bishop Jake said they shouldn't be tried on the sidewalk. We have a justice system, and the police are just one step of that. And so we're seeing that our entire justice system, not even just the police, is really a broken system, because why aren't they being convicted of murder? You know, why are these concessions being allowed? And so we really need to address these policies that allow this and examine and look at what the rules are and why this has been happening. And so when I looked at those police union contracts, I was blown away.
Wow.
I was blown away at that what's on paper being allowed. And it shouldn't be, because you are serving us as city. So these are our tax dollars that go, and you basically have a contract that says, hey, I can do what I want and you can't do anything about it. So criminals can be arrested. Nobody's saying that they shouldn't be, you know,
Right.
but they shouldn't be tried on the sidewalk. You know, a hot check shouldn't end up in murder. Selling cigarettes or CD, like Eric Garner, like, you shouldn't be dead. It just shouldn't happen. So blue collar crimes are barely convicted. You know, people barely get arrested for those things. So just examining everything that we view as so criminal, you know, drugs and selling, nonviolent crimes. Like, why are we sending people to jail for this long? So I just think we need to look at the justice system as a whole, not even just the police, because I think it's exposed a lot of things that's wrong.
Yeah, I can walk. When you can walk into a Walmart and kill a whole bunch of people, and then they take you to get a burger, you know.
I'm still upset about that. I'm so upset. You know,
peacefully taken in, peacefully, not one shot fired.
And that was Dylan Roof with the church.
You're talking about the church one, right?
He shot 9 people in a church. And they took him to Burger King, and nobody was punished for that. And so you really just have to ask yourself, you know, what are we really talking about here? You know, is it because they were a criminal? Is that why they, quote unquote, got what they deserved? No. You know, it upsets me, but.
Yeah. Man, wow. You guys hit it right on the head, Lexi and Mildred. Just to, put it frankly, what he said and why this is wrong, why we're treated the way that we're treated. And I heard it on I think it was one show where they said when those things happen, like with Dylan and with the guy, was it Kyle Rittenhouse, the guy that just shot two people and injured another. What it is, man, they humanize them. So when he had a trouble past, or this was happening. You know, Kyle Rittenhouse went home, slept in his bed, and wasn't taken in until the next day.
Man,
next day. When it comes to someone black, then we're convicted right away. They arrest us, they kill, or we kill. We don't make it that far. We don't get humanized like some of these other people do, and so we're treated, I think, differently. I think we have to realize that, and to Jacob Blake's point. We have to change our interaction with the police. I know, like he said, in an instance, your life can be taken, your legs. You know, he's got 3 boys, 3 family, 3 boys that he's got to take care of, and now he's paralyzed. So I think us as African American men and women have to really think about, and it's a shame, but we have to really think about how we interact with the police and how we respond in those situations.
Because we are a threat. We're seen as a threat.
Yeah. And it
live to tell the story. Yeah. It's sad,
exactly.
But I would want my family to live to tell the story.
Right. Yeah. Fight them later. You can fight them in the court. You can do it. You can fight later. Whatever you got to do to make it through that moment, do it. You know, whether you listen to them, do what they say. You know, just interact with them the correct way. You can be upset. Just be upset later, you know, with paperwork and all that type of stuff. You can be upset that way, you know, but make it. Because I don't care how mad you get, you can't say nothing if you're not living.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, like, not that there are not people who've done all those steps and still been murdered or still been abused and still been beaten. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying, like, hey, we know it's injustice. Just if you can live try your best to live to tell the story.
Right, right,
Like to your point, Lexi, I was just thinking about the guy in Dallas that was shot for walking in his own apartment. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah.
Bolton John.
Bolton John.
Bolton Jean,
exactly.
yeah.
Gene, yeah.
What it
Gene,
really,
I'm sorry.
this, and so we just don't get, sometimes we just don't get the benefit of the doubt. And
No.
it's just crazy how we get treated,
Guys, I remember hearing Dick, civil rights activist, the late great Dick Gregory. He's a comedian. If you ever watch any of his, he is a conspiracy theorist. And when you listen to him, you going like, Dick, you kind of sound a little off on this one, but on some videos you going like, wow. And on this one video, they were asking him, this is back in 2014, they asked him about defunding the police. He said, you know how you take, how you stop these police killings? He said, getting their money. He said, if they were to threaten, if stuff like this, take away their pensions, stuff like that, they'll think twice before pulling that trigger.
Exactly.
Which is why we have to amend these union contracts, because that's getting in their money, because their contract is with the city.
Right.
And so when you read these contracts, some of the things I mentioned, like, we can review the body cam footage, no drug testing, you can be rehired, or disciplinary action kind of just gets wiped from your record after X amount of time and can't even prevent you from moving up.
Wow.
So it's so much like that. And yeah, that would be getting into the money.
Into the money.
And so sometimes I think a lot of times, even, I don't want to I'm bipartisan. I'm not saying anything about any one party, but the Democrats like to throw money at the police to fix the problem, but that it hasn't worked.
Nope.
It hasn't yet worked. And so when we're talking about power and policy, I was mentioning it earlier, but in high crime and high violent areas, there's nothing wrong with those people. If they had better education, access to jobs, access to housing and land, and all those things, healthcare, and they had made a living wage, there would be no need for the violence.
Right, exactly.
And so that's the point. That's the point. We're going to take some of that away from the police to distribute it to these other groups and creating other groups for the success of all communities. It's like building more jails instead of more schools. Why would we do that? And so that's what we do when we just throw money constantly at the police. I'm not saying, I want more people in our community to join the police. I'm not against the police, but I do think we have to realize throwing money at it.
It's not going to solve it.
It's not. It's not done it yet. And so we got to look at another solution. We got to use alternatives.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great conversation the four of us have had tonight.
I know, I feel so lucky to be here with you guys.
We are so blessed to have you here with us, Lexi. You don't understand. I just hope whenever we post this that people be going like, oh, so that's what them three fools was talking about this whole time. Lexi came on here and just broke it all down for them. But
a lot of vital information that we've been able to hear tonight, and this I think it is very good. So I want to say, Lexi, we do thank you for coming on and giving us that information. It's been very, very good. It's some stuff I didn't know, So I mean,
me too.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful for y'all. Thank you so much.
Well, we're not going to just talk about all this stuff and not do something to laugh. So this just came to me. So I hope it goes over well. So I'm just going to throw it out there. We're just going to see if it lands or not. And if it don't, Braxton, you can just edit this right on out.
I can take it out.
But we all grew up with our grandparents, and we all were at the point we're going like, oh, Lord, I got to sit down and look at this. And then after watching it, we're going like, this is pretty good. But I want to ask each of y'all, what TV show did your grandparents make you sit down and look at? And you're going like, I don't want to look at that. And then after a while, you're going like, it's pretty good. but you'll either today you might sneak away to look at it and it'll bring back memories for you, or you just be like, I'll go first. For me, Elsa May made me sit down and watch In the Heat of the Night. Murder, She Wrote. Texas Walker Ranger. What else? Grandpa made me look at Hill Street Blues. And all of them shows, I look at today. I just got through looking at Murder, She Wrote last night. And I'm going to, boy, me and Granny were looking at this. And boy, we had a marathon of them and had a good time. And all those shows except Hill Street Blues, I didn't like it. In the Heat of the Night, one of my favorite shows. Texas Walker Ranger, I love it.
Walker Texas Ranger.
Oh, thanks, Cedar. I'm sorry.
Walker Texas Braxton, I don't know about you, but Mama McBride had me watching Gunsmoke and Walker Texas Ranger every day, and I would be like, "Can we please watch something else?" And now, look, when the marathon come on, what do I do? Turn the channel to Walker Texas Ranger. And not a grandparent, but my mom watched I Love Lucy a lot. And
me and Lady Mia love I Love Lucy.
Yeah, I love that show too. So it's like unsuspecting when I tell people about watching. They're like, what? Like, how old are you? Like, we watch it. We got the whole DVD series,
right? Yeah,
beginning to end.
Same
watch them all in black and white. So
yeah.
That Walker Texas Ranger. Did she watch that, Braxton, when you were over there?
Mama? She would talk about it. She would talk about it a lot. I don't remember watching it with her, but she would watch it. I remember her talking about shoot 'em ups. Watching the Western.
She said she likes shoot 'em ups.
Shoot 'em ups, yeah. And I find myself, I love Westerns now, so I watch them.
Boy,
I love them.
So you like them shoot 'em ups too?
Yeah.
Every last one of those shows I have seen. Right. It used to be boring. I'm like, what is this? And now I look at some of that stuff. I was like, man, some of this stuff is funny. I was like, I had no idea some of this stuff was funny. Festus, Chester, all those people, man.
Yes. Yes.
Honestly, and Days of Our Lives. My grandma would have it on in the living room because I stay with her like all the day, before school, after school. So sometimes if I would be with her during the day, she'd be watching Days of Our Lives. And I'm like, do people really watch this?
Evidently, because it's been on for the last 100 years. Seems like.
Yeah.
So that's not one that I consistently watch, but I will like turn the channel on and see what these people doing that I watched a long time ago.
Is Victor still on? What's that show he was on? Not Days of Our Lives.
Young and the Restless.
Young and the Restless. Young and the Restless. But this is one thing I want to say about Murder, She Wrote. And I said this to my grandma. I said, Granny, how is it every time Jessica goes somewhere, there is a murder? Now, if that were me, I would be real depressed because every time I go somewhere, someone end up dead. And in the little town she lived in.
You telling me it ain't you?
Right. In Cabot Cove, how's that not of the world? Because it's not that big. And every other week, somebody getting killed. So I think Jessica was this, a psycho killer, and then she just plotted and planned it, but
she disassociated, and one of her personalities was doing
it. I'm just like, so yeah, all of those shows, classic. When I was little, I'm like, why? But now I will sit down and watch them like I ain't never seen them before and enjoy it. But y'all, we have had a great conversation tonight. The four of us, Lexxi, Mildred, Braxton, on B.M.B. Tell It Like It Is. And what did we do tonight? We told it like it was. So hey, brothers, you know what we usually do before we get off? We're going to end with a word of prayer. So
it's my turn.
It's your turn, Braxton.
Come on, Reverend Brown. Let's go.
Reach the throne of heaven.
I ain't watched no church.
No. You ain't watched
it? Yeah, I ain't watched church this weekend. I know, y'all. Y'all just pray.
Paying your tithes either, haven't you?
It ain't got to be long. You be short and sweet.
Right.
Let's just go ahead and start now because you need to pray, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
All right. Father God, we thank you for just this conversation, God. We thank you for Lexxi, God, joining us today, and for Brent and Mildred, God. We just pray that what was said today can be used, God, that someone can just receive something from it and apply it, God, and take it and just put it into action, God. We just pray that these words don't fall onto on a stony ground, God, but that that you use what we said, just these seeds that we planted today. You use these to grow and just grow and just flourish in someone's life, even in our life, God. What we didn't know today and what we learned, we just pray that we are able to take that and just change our world. What we don't like about it, that we're able to implement that, God, and be the change that we want in our world. So we just pray, God, for your anointing, your power, your blessing on us, and just kind of this show and this conversation, and your protection, God. In your name we pray, amen.
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 Amen. Until next week, everybody, please stay tuned and look out for our tribute video to our king, Chadwick Boseman. It's coming out soon. We'll post it to our platform soon, and the conversation that we had with that. And till next time we meet again, may God bless you and God keep you is our prayer. Till next time, peace out.
Peace out. I love
Wakanda forever.
you.